Huh.
Okay. So again, I mean, you got pros and cons either way. In my opinion, none of this matters. And the reality is some of the greatest champions, some of the greatest legends in the Iron Game history, they started off as either sickly or ill or really skinny. Kind of the whole idea behind that 90-pound weakling story that you see advertised everywhere. He was getting sand kicked in his
Yeah,
face.
I know exactly.
I mean, that's a true story. And the reality is the majority of people, especially from like pre-60s and pre-50s, they would fall into that category. It's not too often you had guys who started off looking like, future potential champions and that became that way. No, usually they were sick, they had something wrong with them. I mean, even one of the most genetically gifted power lifters of all time, or Olympic weightlifters, strength athletes, Paul Anderson, the man squatted 1,200 pounds. Actually, I believe it's 1,206 with no wraps, no belts, no straps, no nothing. This is like back in the 60s. Okay. Some people say he wasn't natural. The majority of people feel he was natural. I believe I think it was called Bright's disease. So he had kidney issues. Okay.
Ugh.
He was very sickly when he was younger. And even, it eventually caught up to him, unfortunately. And he unfortunately passed away, probably younger than what he should have from that. However, that didn't stop him from becoming a champion.
Right.
So that's my opinion on genetics.
So yeah, I liked that. That sure it plays a role, but who cares? I like that approach. Now, if someone is actively striving for progress in strength, I mean, you talked about before, you want to have ways to measure it, so that that way you're doing the right thing and you're getting stronger. So what methods would typically be used?
Okay, well, everybody probably has heard of the idea of adding weight to the bar. Anybody who's actually went to the gym and has
Right.
been, quasi-serious or serious about training. You got to add weight to the bar, got to add weight to the bar. And that is definitely one of the ideas behind progressive strength training. You want to, eventually at some point lift more weight. Now, the thing with that is it's a good idea. However, it's very easy to outpace your ability to keep up with that incremental, the additional weight that you're adding to the bar every week. So again, while I believe it is a good idea, and especially beginners can usually get away with adding weight every week, week in and week out, week in and week out. If your program is not set up properly, it can catch up with you eventually and kind of run you into the ground. So it is a good method. You just have to kind of be intelligent about it. Another one would be increasing your reps. So an example of that would be a lot of the old routines from back in the day. They were actually built around this premise. And the premise was, okay, you're going to do an exercise, let's say squats. You're going to do it for 10 reps. You're going to pick a weight that you can do for 10 reps. And then you stick with it until you could do, let's say, 15 reps, maybe
Right.
20 reps. Once you hit that number, you add 5, 10 pounds to the bar, you go back down to 10 reps, and you start over again.
Right.
So the beauty with that is it allows you to master the weight. It's actually a very good way for people to progress. Another method that you really don't see anymore, but again, was used quite a bit back in the day. One of the greatest Olympic weightlifters of all time, John Davis, he actually used this method, which was increasing the number of sets that he did. So this is something that I learned through Brooks Kubik, who actually is the author of Dinosaur Training, which is a great book. He's an Iron Game historian. I owe a lot to him and him introducing me to a lot of these champions from the past. John Davis, he would do, let's say, 5 sets of 2 on overhead press, and then next session he would add another set of 2 reps, and next session he would add another set, and then he would reach a determined amount of sets, increase the amount of weight that he's using, and drop back down to, let's say, 5 sets again.
Huh.
And then a bonus one, which is actually one that has, to a certain degree, become a little bit more popular recently, has to do with time. And what I mean by that is decreasing the amount of time it requires you to do your training. And there's a couple different ways that you can categorize this. One of them was, more recently, it's called density training. And essentially you say, okay, I'm going to do 40 reps and I'm going to do them, let's say, in 10 minutes or whatever, or 5 minutes. And then over time, you try to decrease the amount of time it takes you to do those number of reps.
Oh, okay.
Right. Another way of doing it is decreasing the amount of time between sets. So for example, let's say you normally rest, a minute and a half between sets. Well, you decrease it so many seconds, and then you just keep doing that from one week to the next. A lot of the bodybuilders from like Arnold's era, and I believe even Arnold himself, leading up to a competition, that's what they would do. They would actually start decreasing the rest period. And the reason they did that was because it would essentially turn it into almost circuit training. And now they're huffing and puffing as they're getting their workout. and it's almost turns it into cardio without actually, you're doing cardio without doing cardio. And you enhance your fat burning benefits of that type of the fat burning effects, I should say, of that type of a workout. So those are a handful of methods that people could use.
Oh yeah, it's great. Now we are almost out of time. So really quickly, Ray, do you have any final thoughts for this first episode?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, all I say is you should really focus on progressing in the gym. Obviously, don't go too crazy about it, but you definitely should be progressing in the gym. And if you are not finding that you are improving and you are trying to put the effort in, you need to take another look at your training. Maybe you need to improve your training. Maybe you got to change your workout, or maybe you just need to actually put more effort in. But definitely you do not want to be one of those guys where, 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, every gym has it. He just looks exactly the same, or she looks exactly the same. You don't want to be that guy. And that's because they're not improving from workout to workout. Besides that, I would say if they could come to my site, I have a free report that they could get. It has a lot of great information for actually increasing their strength and actually safety on the main lifts, the most progressive lifts that you could do in the gym, the top 3 lifts. It's a checklist that they use before they train. I promise it'll add 10 pounds to your lift within 10 minutes, and that's not just a bunch of baloney. It's years of dialing in this information and getting it together. And you can get that at www.raytulany, that's TOULANY.com/instant strength. And that's a free report for the listeners.
All right, that's great. Well, we are out of time for today. And if you guys can think of anybody who might want to listen to this, go ahead and go to raytulany.com and download this podcast. Look for the new ones coming up in the future. And again, as Ray just talked about, you can visit him at raytulany.com. That's RAYTOULANY.com. Or go follow him on Facebook at facebook.com/raytulany strength and conditioning. Ray, thanks so much.
Thank you, Nick.
Thanks for listening. To learn more about Ray Tulany and to get access to all exclusive interviews and courses, visit raytulany.com. That's www.raytulany.com.